Thank you, Miriam, for introducing the members of the board to us all. This evening, I'm here to offer my personal support and the support of the diocese for this undertaking of Catholic radio here in the northern county of the Diocese of Worcester. I think it's an extraordinarily important undertaking because it really fits into the type of ecclesial agenda that is being set for us by no one less than our Holy Father himself. If you've been listening to his preaching and his talks and the message that he is giving out to the entire Catholic Church, a theme that underlies all of his presentations is the theme of the new evangelization. A theme, of course, which was begun with great honor under the pontificate of Blessed John Paul II. In Catholic vocabulary, the word evangelization is somewhat new to us, although the entire life of the Church is to evangelize. However, over the centuries, evangelization, certainly in the modern era, has been more of a Protestant concept. But in the sense that the Catholic Church is with great vigor holding on to this idea because we have reached a point in the life of the Church where here in the United States, but also in Western culture, that the faith in a sense has grown tired, one might say. Shockingly, as some of you may know, the bishops of New England went to Rome in November for the so-called Abdimina pilgrimage to the threshold of the apostles to visit with our Holy Father and the heads of the congregations in Rome to report to the Holy Father and to these congregations the life status of our diocese and life. And what was very surprising to me, in a sense very disconcerting, was we had to report to the Pope the findings of a survey which was done in the latter part of the summer, the early part of the fall. And the findings of this Pew survey was that New England is the least religious part of the Holy United States. That's really shocking because when you stop and think about it, New England, because of the huge number of immigrants that came at the end of from the middle of the 19th century until the 20th century, so many of these immigrants were, of course, of the Catholic faith, and they established the church very strongly here in New England. The city of Worcester is an example of that. On so many corners of that city, there are magnificent churches built to the honor and glory of God, reflecting the very ethnic mixes of the immigrants. But to find out that in point of fact, the practice of the faith has really diminished seriously is very disconcerting. In the Archdiocese of Boston, Cardinal O'Malley himself has said that the average percentage of practicing Catholics in the Archdiocese of Boston has fallen to about 18%. I mean, that's really shocking. Here in the Diocese of Worcester, when we did our pew count back in October, probably the percentage of practicing Catholics in the Diocese of Worcester is about between 25 and 30%. So, what is historically ironic is that in 1962, when Blessed John the 23rd convoked the Second Vatican Council, the whole purpose of the council was to update the Church, so to speak, so that it could talk credibly, enthusiastically, and convincingly to the modern world. But when the council closed in '65, I don't think anyone could have foreseen, except God himself, that there was a type of culturally perfect storm that was brewing, and that the Church began to renew herself, especially in Western culture, at a time when many of our own structures in the American society, in a sense, were falling apart. A sense of distrust in authority, a disrespect of government, a type of experimentation in lifestyles, etc., sort of invaded American culture. And it was in this type of context that the Church here in the United States was trying to renew itself. And the culture proposed to the Church's renewal a number of very serious challenges. In a sense, the culture has sort of dominated the type of religious practice of our Catholics. Two things that characterize contemporary American culture are secularism, a very vigorous secularism, and a type of intellectual and moral relativism. The secularism is, in a sense, has caused people to become so involved in the life of materialism, the life of individualism, the life of doing it my way, that it has really sort of taken away from the practice of faith among many of our Catholics. And also a very major, serious challenge to the life of faith has been intellectual and moral relativism. As you know, intellectual relativism basically says that there is no such thing as truth or falsity. It's a matter of opinion. And moral relativism is basically that there's no objective right or wrong, that I personally, in a sense, establish my own sense of morality based on how I feel about certain issues. Within this context, the Church has been trying to renew itself. And the consequences of the cultural situation has not been tremendously beneficial to the life of the Church. The question is, what do we do? One option would be to do nothing, which would be catastrophic. Another option is to retreat and say not only we'll do nothing, but we can't do anything because the culture is just too predominant. And the third option is evangelization. And that is the option that the Church has chosen under the magnificent leadership of Pope Benedict XVI. And that is the agenda we have here in our life in the Diocese of Worcester. I think it's very apropos that we establish a Catholic radio station in Worcester and also here in North County, because the radio can serve as a wonderful medium of evangelization. As you may have known, that our Holy Father just proclaimed recently that beginning on October 11th, 2012, which is the 50th anniversary of the opening of the Second Vatican Council, from October the 11th, 2012 to November of 2013, an entire year will be a celebration of what the Pope has described as the Year of Faith. And just recently, the Vatican Congregation has sent to the bishops of the world recommendations on how we should celebrate this Year of Faith. And one of the recommendations is the following. Pastors, namely bishops and their priest collaborators, pastors should work to promote television and radio transmissions, focusing on faith, its principles and content, as well as the ecclesial significance of the Second Vatican Council. This should be done using the new styles of communication, especially on the popular level, making these available to a wider public. It seems to me the Catholic radio here in North County, that's precisely its goal, why it has been established. To bring the life of faith to as many people as we possibly can. We have at least 2 generations of Catholics who are under-catechized, which is to say that they really have not received in its fullness, in its beauty, in its richness, the content of the Catholic faith. For any number of reasons, and there's multiple, and nothing is served well by pointing fingers and saying, well, this went wrong, that went wrong. The point is, the fact is, that we have thousands and thousands of Catholics who do not know the faith properly. And as St. Thomas Aquinas said centuries ago, that you cannot love what you do not know. How can you love the faith if you do not know it? How can the content of the faith propel your everyday life unless you studied it, unless you appropriated it into your life, unless you have taken it as your way to salvation? What is the new evangelization? The new evangelization is reintroducing the person of Jesus Christ and the richness of his revelation and the teachings of his church to people who should have known the faith, to people who have grown up in Catholic households. Just think of our own families. Now, I am shocked pastorally when I read the obituaries in the morning. You see Catholic names, people who've gone to Catholic schools, you identify the high schools they may have gone in Worcester. Even to the point they're saying they were active in their parish. And no funeral mass. To me, that is a major pastoral crisis. What's going on? It seems to be a type of spiritual amnesia has settled over many Catholic families. And they, for any number of reasons, which have to be analyzed, a number of Catholics have drifted away from the the faith. What we are doing in the new evangelization is reproposing the magnificent richness of the Catholic tradition. And to do this, we have to call upon as many avenues of media as we possibly can. So I think it's so important that we are undertaking Catholic radio here in this area of the diocese. So I'm very thankful and I'm very appreciative and indebted to all of you who have worked and prayed and supported financially in bringing this day to fruition. And please God, this will prove to be, in this part of the diocese, a great vehicle of new evangelization. And through this, through presenting the content of the faith through the medium of radio, we can invite people back to the practice of faith, so to add to the type of pastoral vitality that we need in order for the church to be strong and to become that means of salvation for God's holy people. So for all you've done for Catholic Radio and for what you're doing to keep it going here, I am indebted to you. Thank you very much.